everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I have my friend Melanie Murphy with me because since we last filmed together, we have both gotten married and had kids. Yeah. And you have a second one on the way.
Yeah, so
and there's been a whole
baby,
pandemic.
and another in womb.
Exactly. So a lot has changed.
The last video was about like being single versus being in a relationship.
And taste testing lube, different flavoured lubes. And so
haven't done that in ages, Hannah.
Yeah. So we're really just gonna take things up a notch, really. Yeah. And talk about parenting.
Oh my god. No, this...
So I wanted to make a video about the different ways that Mel and I did maternity leave and work with a baby.
Yes.
My baby is just 4 months old. Yours is almost 2. Mm-hmm. So we're going to mostly be talking about that like initial 4 months because that's all I've got really experience
That's fine.
with,
That's
if
fine.
you can remember.
Yeah.
But then also like your intentions for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And how you might do things differently or not.
See, being around Hannah has helped a lot with this because I can't remember so much of the first 4 months, and being around you and Rowan is reminding me that it's going to be fine. Do you know what I mean?
It's going to be fine. Like, it's going to be chaos, but ultimately
shitting myself.
It will be fine. We both have like what on the outside would look like the same job. Like we both make YouTube videos for a living. You also write a lot of books. I have a podcast. So we're kind of like in that
same sphere.
Yeah, in that same world.
And we go about it very, very differently.
Exactly. So that's why I thought this would be interesting. And so I asked for some of your like questions and like topics you wanted us to cover on Instagram. And I feel like we're just going to hit most of the main points by going through those. So let's get into it. Okay, first off, Han, you seem to have a team helping you with YouTube, etc. Is it similar for Mel? No.
We're in a proper studio right now, and it's like the setup is the most professional thing I've ever seen in my
have
little
a
life.
reflector balanced on top of a bin, though.
Yeah, this is true. See, my tripod is often a pile of books or like literally a washing basket full of dirty clothes, and like I go about my job in a very unprofessional way, but in my head it's like organized chaos.
Yeah.
And it works for me.
I can't have organized chaos. I have to have organized organization.
Organized organization. Yeah. Hannah likes lists and Hannah likes to be very scheduled.
Yeah.
Whereas I literally was saying to Hannah, like, I get home tonight, tomorrow I have to film a sponsored video, edit the sponsored video the following day. I don't know what the video is going to be yet.
No, see
that's my next bit, you know?
That gives me so much stress. I have to know what videos I'm going to be like making like weeks in advance.
You showed me your plans, and it's like you have like list of all your video topics and ideas. And
but here's the thing with the team and where that comes in. Like because I've got somebody else who edits my videos, I have to be more on it because I have to respect my editor's time. And all of that because you know she needs to know what day she's getting videos and when she's working and the process of like giving feedback and stuff. So I would describe you as very much a one-woman band, and I definitely started out that way. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of YouTubers like will veer off in one of the directions. Like either they'll stay a one-person band, or as they grow, they'll like increase the amount that they spend by hiring other people to like help with stuff.
If you spend more, you have much more potential to earn more. And like, but there are pros and cons to both. It's like, to me, that's like way more pressure. And then also, because I don't have staff, anytime I get a job, I keep the money from that job. I do have a management company. So like, I'm not completely just like, I'm doing everything and I'm amazing and I'm juggling all the plates. Like I'm not. My management will deal with like contracts, chasing up fees, that kind of stuff. Boring
but when
stuff.
it comes to maternity leave and looking after a baby.
Oh yeah.
Like how did being a one-woman band like play into
Well, see, I've been thinking about this because someone commented on a picture there on Instagram recently asking us to talk about how differently we like go about parenting and stuff. I don't think they realised that I did start working quite soon after my son was born. I did my first spawn like he was 2 weeks old.
No!
And I didn't really do any, I think I gave YouTube a little bit of a break, but I had a pre-filmed video.
I vaguely remember you doing your like Instagram post like, I'm back to work, like when your baby was a month old.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh
Oh, a month to me was like such a long time, because I was like, if I just vanish, the way our job is, if you were to take the full year maternity leave that a lot of people get, you know, it's like, what am I coming back to? Does anyone care anymore?
I would have to like let my staff go, because there wouldn't be a job for them to do. Yeah. And like they'd probably then busy themselves with other things, so they wouldn't be able to like come back and work for me again.
And there's thousands of channels waiting to jump in and like take over from where older YouTubers leave off. Like, so for me, I definitely felt pressure to get back at it really quickly. But the only reason I could do that without childcare was because my husband was the childcare, because it was during the lockdowns.
Yeah,
so
he was on
couldn't
furlough.
work. Yeah. So otherwise I would have had a childminder at that point, because I would have had to get back to work, because at that point especially, like, it's not like that as much now, but I was the primary breadwinner at the time in saving for us to be able to buy a house. So I literally could not be like, I'm going to take maternity leave. It was hard, and you know, in a way I kind of liked it, because you know, the early days with a baby can be boring and can be very repetitive, and I loved having a little bit of time for myself, like to do something different other than feeding and changing nappies, and because before they can talk or anything, they kind of just like all day.
It takes a while for them to like even show any kind of alertness or like giving you any kind of feedback that, you know, you're doing a good job.
How did you find it? Like, in terms of, were you itching to get back to work?
No. So I took 3 months off, because that was kind of like what I calculated would be the max amount of time I could have to fully focus on parenting and recovering from birth, whilst also keeping the people that I work with like busy employed and having stuff to do, and then also kind of like having an audience to come back to, and like all of that.
There's so much, isn't there, to like think about? It's such a weird job.
It is indeed. How do you separate your home life from your work life when self-employed? For me, one of the best things has been having this studio and having like a separate physical space to come to. However, since Rowan has been in childcare, if I only have like desk laptop work to do, I'll do that at home, because our flat is closer to his childminders than here is. And so I don't want me walking to and from places to like eat into work time. And I'll only ever come here actually when I'm filming or recording a podcast, which is annoying because it feels like a waste of money paying the rent when I'm here like a couple of hours a week.
That I really struggle with that. Like, I still don't have an office though, and this is like a dream to me. The last time that I was here, the first time I saw this, I was like, this is incredible. Like, it's just amazing to be able to step in somewhere and be like, I'm in work now. I've been working for myself online for nearly 9 years, and I've never had that. And even currently I don't have an office. We're still doing up my home office. So
before I had this space, would have a separate office space at home. Now that room is like Dan's home office, the spare room, and like where Rowan's stuff is. So I don't know, I feel like I'm quite good though at like separating like the work and the home life mentally.
Mentally. It's
physically no, like I will be doing work on my phone whilst he's asleep on me.
Absolutely, it's really, really difficult to juggle. And I think as well, like, even if your child is in like the other room and you're working, like if you're self-employed and you're working one room, you still have the same guilt, because, and it's, you know, you can hear them and you're like, I feel bad, I should be in playing with him.
Dan's like that when he's working from home and me and Rowan are at home.
It's hard. Like, it's just hard. It has to be done.
Oh, this is an interesting question, because I think this is very different for the two of us. Do you have a village to raise your child?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a no.
You're a no?
Yeah.
I do, and it's essentially my village consists of my husband's parents and my dad. My dad sees my son for at least an hour a day, and he loves playing with him and stuff like that. And then my mother-in-law has actually stepped in as, like, she wanted to be the childminder, the official childminder, for like 4 hours, 3 days a week. But even when he was born, I lived with them. Like, I lived with my in-laws. And then there was my husband's sister. So there was like 5 adults to a baby when he was born. Whereas Hannah was, you know, your parents live quite far away.
Yeah, both of mine and Dan's parents, like, don't live in London. Well, and so it's just the two of us here, and the only other friends that we have who like are at this stage in life with babies are new friends that we've met. And so whilst we can get like a lot of emotional support from them, we're all in the same boat. Like, we're all looking after new babies.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't really have like other friends here necessarily, like who we would leave Rowan with. Like maybe if some friends now after seeing this go, oh, I would happily step up, then maybe. But it's not something that I would want to ask someone
I know, and I have a couple of friends around where we live, and they're mothers and they have little children, and we do hang out, and our children will all play together. But I've yet to ask them to childmind my son, and they've yet to ask me. And I think it's just because we're still kind of trying to get used to each other's kids and how each other does things, because we all parent very differently. That's one thing that is like when you're kind of forming your village, it's like, it's not like everyone's going to do things the same.
No.
The same way our parents did things very differently.
Yeah, that's why having a childminder for us is great, because it's like it's their job to like continue like the parenting style of the parents. They're like, what do you do, and we'll like
replicate it.
Yeah, exactly. How do you respond to people telling you to work less / spend more time with baby? I hate these statements, and I do definitely see them a lot, mostly because it's like, you don't actually know the inner workings and the details of my life. And you don't know every single thing that played into us making the decision that we made when it comes to my work, parenting, Dan's work, the childminder, like all of that kind of stuff. But that's people online. Do you ever get it from people who actually do know you in real life and know the full picture?
I've never had that. I've definitely had people say, like, we were watching Motherland last night, and one of the comments in it was like, I would just feel awful about myself if I was working and not be with my child. And I've definitely had people like who are in a privileged enough position where they can just not work say stuff like that. And it's not always about like, oh, I have to work financially. Like, some people have to for their mental health, and they need their own thing separate. And like I find like the part-time working is like a nice sweet spot for me, because when I'm away from him for too long, I really miss him, and I feel I just want to, I'm like, oh, I just wish I could just be a stay-at-home mother. But then when I am with him for like days in a row, when my husband's away on a work trip, I'm like, I can't wait to go back to work. So it is, I like best of both worlds and stuff. But it's like that with a lot of things with parenting. Like I was saying to Hannah, I got a lot of comments about, you know, my son staying in our room and like bed sharing and stuff for like such a long time. But at the time, we lived with my in-laws, and we didn't have space to put him in his own bedroom at the time. And our decisions kind of developed from that. It wasn't like a conscious, like, we're going to do this because we think this is best.
A lot of it is circumstantial.
Circumstantial, and not everyone has the ability to have a whole room for their baby and things like that. So there are a lot of things.
I was so tempted, like, before Rowan was born, like, I was going to make, like, a baby nursery transformation Instagram reel, because I would see them all the time. Like, someone would take this spare room that has gone unused in their
amazing
home,
looking,
and then turn it into this beautiful nursery. And like, honestly, no shade to people who have done that, because I love watching them.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, it's so beautiful, and like, look at all the things. But we don't have the space for that. And I was so tempted to make a reel where it would be like a pan of our office / spare room / my old studio, and then like it just be exactly the same but just with a nappy bin in it instead.
I know, it's
anyway,
10 out of 10 humor though.
It never got made.
I would have laughed.
It never got made.
I would have hit like.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. How difficult you find motivating yourself compared to someone who has a typical 9 to 5? This question could apply to our jobs before having kids as well. Like, I've always motivated myself in a way that I just like plan my work, and I look at my calendar, and my calendar tells me what I'm going to do. I cannot wake up and be like, oh, you know what, I'm feeling inspired. Like, that's not how I work. But I remember you saying when you first had your baby and the hours you did have to work, you were so efficient.
Yes.
And I've found that now. Like, I might have like a chunk of 3 hours and I get so much more done than I used to. And I was pretty productive before. And now, like, the procrastination is gone.
Because you can't afford to. Like, I always struggled with that. I think because I've never been the way that Hannah is in terms of organizing things and planning things ahead. So I'd always really struggle. I'd be like, I need to put up a video this week, and you know, now it's Thursday and it needs to be up by Sunday, and like, you know, I'd end up panic filming almost a lot of the time. It wasn't that I was waiting for inspiration to strike at all. It was just more like chaotic, you know, the way I've always worked. But yeah, since I had my son, less so recently because we're also trying to renovate a house. So now it's just like too many things. I'm just like, I can't. But when I had him especially, I found the year after he was born was probably my most productive year work-wise.
You wrote a bloody book.
I wrote a book and I just uploaded so many videos. I did so many brand deals. I earned the most in that year out of any year that I've ever worked.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. But all thanks to my husband for being full-time childcare. So.
Yeah, exactly. Not even childcare, full-time parent.
Full-time parent.
Yeah.
But he, you know, his job would have been, I would have had to pay a childminder to do that, whereas like it was free. So, you know, it was free.
It was free. How do you sort out all your mum/job tasks in your brain and avoid it becoming too much? Do you know what I'm going to say?
You don't?
No, you write it the fuck down. You don't keep it in your brain. What is wrong with you?
I do make to-do lists, but a lot of the time I forget I've made it. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, oh, that was Wednesday's to-do list.
Some guy, some like productivity guru dude, like one of those, has said like your brain is for having ideas, not for storing them.
Ideas. This is very true.
Yeah. The moment I think something, I have all my systems in place and I know where it goes, and I will like actively be referencing those places so I know what to do.
Do you make really detailed to-do lists then? Because I used to keep them when I used to journal, when I had time to journal every day, because now I just don't have time. But I did have a to-do list, but it was really basic things. It was like shopping or, you know, change bedding. Like it wasn't work.
Do you need to write down all of the mini tasks of change bedding?
I used to. Now I'm like, right, he's asleep. I have to do all of the housework in the next 2 hours. Like.
Yeah. Depends on what it is. Like I think I've gotten to the point now where I know myself well enough that I know what things I'll forget and what things I won't.
Yeah.
So I know what amount of detail I need to give to myself.
For work, I would need so much detail. And I think even, you know, the way you were saying to me before about outsourcing editing, for example, that always made me so stressed because I'd have to like take the time to send the files and then to do up a thing of like, this is what I want it to look like. And I always felt like, well, just let me do it. I'll just do it like quicker. And
but that's the thing, like so definitely when you outsource, it takes up more time and energy at the beginning. Yeah. Because you're having to onboard someone, you're having to train someone, you're having to create like a process guide for how to edit Melanie's videos.
But once they know your style.
Once all of that is in place, then
it's easy.
Way faster. But the amount of time you have to invest at the beginning is a lot.
Insane, yeah. So I'll probably never do it. And I'll probably just be just crawling myself into a hole until I stop earning money.
Sounds great. How do you feel having a baby has affected your brand or audience?
Oh my God. So it has affected everything so much more than I wanted it to because I don't even post much about my son, and I didn't want to become just someone who talks about parenting all the time. But there's so little room in my brain for other things. Yeah. Like obviously I still have interests and hobbies. Obviously.
Do you? What's a hobby you have?
A hobby, like
name a hobby.
Well, like reading and things like that. Like,
but you were saying to me that you haven't read much in ages.
Yeah. But this is what I'm saying. So, like hobbies I had before, like going to the gym and all my old hobbies.
Yeah, I can't wait until I can play tennis again.
Yeah, stuff like that. I don't have time. When I have time, I'm always knackered, and the first thing I would want to do is sleep, and. You know, even if I get an extra like 45 minutes, I would rather sleep than even writing. I would rather sleep. Yeah. And so when it comes to work and YouTube stuff, I really do struggle then. I'm like, there's a lot of things, obviously, like I'll have half-baked thoughts and opinions on that I'd love to make a topical video about that subject, but I just don't feel like I have enough time or enough brain space to dive into it. Form a coherent, interesting, you know what I mean? So now that like my son is older, I do really want to veer more into like making videos about things that really interest me. Like I'm really interested at the moment in interior design and like learning about plants and stuff like that. But I just feel like I would have nothing valuable to bring to content on that stuff because I'm so
that's not true.
In the head. That's what I feel. Yeah. So yeah, talking about being a mother has taken over a lot of like when I do post, and I don't want that. And it's just what's happened. It was never planned. So I am kind of conscious of that and like hoping to slowly move away from it. But then people are also interested in it, but then it's like, you have to make what you want and not what people ask you to make. Like, I'm in such a weird place with my online stuff. I don't have a brand. I don't know if I have a brand. Do you remember we used to play this game? It's like, when you think about my brand, what colour do you think of?
Green.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's nice.
Obviously. I mean, look at you.
Well, you're orange and yellow and always will be. But it's like, but because I think you splitting your channel into a more Hannah channel was genius, because now your main channel is like, that's my thing. And even if you're not in a headspace of thinking about sex or like necessarily wanting to, you know what I mean? You can there's so much scope.
But one
there.
of the ways that I've been able to like maintain the sex ed channel whilst also like throughout my pregnancy, when my brain was just like, what? And then even now, is working with other researchers and writers on videos, and then also doing like guest hosts as well, something that we started. I think also with the topics of conversation that I make, parenting, babies, all of that kind of stuff is adjacent to a lot of it. Like you can kind of mash them together. So with the sex ed stuff, there's a lot of stuff around like the birth and pregnancy and like postpartum and breastfeeding that all like fits really well
into the hormones.
Yeah, into
type stuff.
That series. Yeah. And then on this channel where I talk about work and fashion and books and all of that kind of stuff, it's really easy to then be like, okay, let's talk about work and parenting. Okay, let's talk about fashion and breastfeeding. There's a lot there that, similar to you, it's all that is filling up my brain right now. But I still feel like I'm able to be true to what the selling point of like both of my channels was and true to those topics. But they just kind of have like a parenting twist now.
Yeah. That's kind of what's happened with me. And I think my main channel, which used to have more arms to it, now is just like what your more Hannah channel is in terms of that. Like, I don't have a main thing anymore that I cover. I think because I never successfully split.
But I just think of your channel as a lifestyle channel. And so as your life changes, the topics change. Like, you now have your whole like series about renovating your house. That's a new arm.
Yeah, that is going very slowly because renovation is so expensive.
That's fine. That's fine. I'd love to hear some comparison of Mel's pandemic first months with your first few months.
The main thing that's coming to mind is I am so jealous of your NCT group because I couldn't, all of the groups of other parents and like the breastfeeding group, and none of them were active. And so it was literally just like Thomas's parents and Thomas. And I didn't have, I couldn't talk.
It has been a lifeline for me, those other women that I met who, like, we've all had kids around the same time and they all live locally to me, just like hanging out with them and their babies, like going to the pub, going to cafes, going for walks around the park, like.
And even a lot of your friends, like, they've gotten to see and hold Rowan as he's a baby. You
and our family
didn't get to see my son until he was 1.
He was 1!
He was 1. And we were so sad because even when I was pregnant, I didn't get to see you.
No, this is my first time seeing Mel pregnant.
Yeah.
I missed your entire last pregnancy.
Know. And then by the time we were able to meet up, obviously, like, we were trying to meet up regularly again. But it was really hard because I had this feeling that like no one would care about him because they hadn't been exposed to him when he was smaller. So that then suddenly I was just showing up with this fully grown child and people were like, were you even pregnant?
Yeah.
Like, what?
I do feel like now that I've like experienced those first few months with Rowan, I feel like, oh God, like was I there enough for Mel when you went through it?
You couldn't be.
Well, not physically, obviously. But like, I think you just don't know. Like when you're not a parent, like you just don't know. I've often described like parenthood as like the upside down in Stranger Things. So like the upside down is always there, but you might get glimpses of it, like if a family member or a close friend has kids.
I love that.
But then as soon as you have kids yourself, you're living there. And you're like, oh my God, this entire world
existed for that person.
Like it existed already. I just didn't know about it. And now I live here.
That so much.
And so I think about you in the upside down whilst I was in the real world. And I'm like, oh no, Mel, is she okay?
No. It's okay.
So it's like now I'm here with you in the upside down. So
I love that so much.
But honestly, my heart goes out to all of the parents who had to
have children,
kids.
Same.
Even parents of kids of like school age. Like
I don't know
during
how
the pandemic.
You did that.
Oh my God.
And everyone had such bad Zoom fatigue.
Yeah. Oh. How did you plan for mat leave as a content creator? Let me tell you, my entire January to March was planning to be able to take 3 months off.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot went into it. Melanie?
Nothing. I didn't even think about it, really.
But I have a follow-up question. Are you planning anything for this baby?
No. And you know what? I think the reason I didn't the last time was because I had such a false sense of like, I'd seen other content creators just like, you know, their birth vlog was up the next day and then they were like daily vlogging. And I was like, oh, it must be fine. Like, it mustn't be that bad. But like they had teams of people, like again, like the way you have a team to help you with actual video stuff. They had teams of people helping with not only that, but also with childcare. And like, and a lot of them kind of only talked about this like later. Like I remember watching this Q&A and they were like, yeah, we used to have nannies come on holidays. And I was always, and it gives a false impression of what parenthood is like for so many people. They're like, oh, well, if she can do it, then why can't she do it? And I think I put a lot of like unnecessary pressure on myself, but I do think I am less stressed about having to keep up this insane like hamster wheel amount of work and stuff now because I'm into a house that I own and because like I have other streams of income. I'm not just relying on like my brand deal stuff. Yeah, I'm not as like stressed, but I probably will take a bit more of a leaf out of your book in like pre-filming stuff to have to go up. I probably will do that.
Do you have any idea of like how long you want to not work for?
This time, at least 6 weeks. I say like 6. I think the first 6 weeks are just insane.
But this time around, you've got a very different situation because Thomas is working.
Yeah, it's going to be mad. I'm hoping that.
And you have a toddler.
Yeah, I'm getting a doula this time, and I don't know how long they hang about for after the birth.
Well, you can get
a postpartum doula.
You can get a postpartum doula. It's like a different service. I think.
So I'm doing that, and so I'm hoping that will kind of help.
But I'm pretty sure doulas are mostly about like the birthing parent, they're not childcare. Yeah, they're to look after you.
Oh yeah. That's what I need. Okay, yeah. Please bring me snacks.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you all so much for your questions and things. Thank you so much for watching. We've also filmed a video on Melanie's channel, a la old school YouTube collab.
Yes, this does feel like back in the day.
Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Bye.